so I'm gonna have to move really fast. So let's just start here. What do all of these brands have in common? They've all been served by Smooth Fusion from right here in Lubbock, Texas. And so what is Smooth Fusion? Well, in a nutshell, we build custom websites and web applications and related things. And so that's what we do. We do it for folks all over the country and sometimes beyond. So just a little quick info. So I'm going to move really fast because I want to get to some kind of lessons I've learned. We've been around for a little over 15 years. We've done over 1,500 projects in that time. We've got a little over 20 people in our company, and most of them are here in Lubbock. We've got one in Abilene and one in Colorado that work remotely, but everybody else is here. And then we also use a select group of freelance folks, most of whom are former full-time employees. So I want to give you a quick bunch of samples of some of the projects we do, so you get an idea of what kinds of things we do. Like I said, I'm going to have to move pretty fast. This was a good example of just a big old corporate website. We built the Welch's website. It has recipes and all their products and all those kind of things going on there. So we host and maintain this site as well, and been one that's been a good one for us. Another example is like this for the FCA. This is a really big site. There's actually thousands of pages on the FCA global website. We built this from scratch for them on a content management system so that they can continually update that on their own. As you can see from the little screenshots here, it adapts for mobile phones and all, which of course is common these days. We don't just work for folks that are in other parts of the country. We built we've done over 100 projects for Citibank over the last 10 years or so, but this is their main, what we would call a marketing site or corporate website for Citibank. We've done over 600 projects for Microsoft over the last 15 years, and this is a pretty typical one. This is a site that lives on Microsoft.com, and it is a site that promotes a particular Microsoft product. So that's a pretty typical kind of deal. There's also these kind, which is, this is a Microsoft project that lives on its own domain. We designed it, we built it, we hosted it on Azure for them. And so, again, sort of a typical kinds of projects that we do for them. One more here, or I'd say two more maybe. I've got, this is what we would call like a campaign site, or you might hear it called a microsite. This is not Transamerica's home page, but this is the home page for a particular product of Transamerica. So in this case, it's bicycle insurance. And in this case, this site is actually more complex than it looks on the surface, because it's actually giving people instant insurance quotes and allowing them to buy insurance, and we take all that data and push it into servers inside Transamerica and that kind of thing. And then finally, one more quick example. We do a fair amount of what we call kiosk software, basically just software that runs on either some kind of touch screen or on a tablet or a kiosk that's used at some kind of event. In this case, these were the NBA games so that people could enter a sweepstakes with Sprint. We've done a lot of different kiosk type things, even did one for Lady Gaga once, so but we don't show that. All right, so sort of as promised, since we're not a typical startup, what I wanted to really do, because we've been around for a while, so we're not really in startup mode anymore, I wanted to spend a few minutes just talking about some of the lessons that we've learned in serving a nationwide kind of audience or market. And I want to come clean right up front that my first client was Microsoft, and it happened by accident. And so I had written a computer science textbook that Microsoft got interested in, and then Microsoft asked me to build them a website back in '96 when the web was really new. And so I got into this, I broke into that by accident. So I'm not saying that these lessons that I'm going to talk about are, guaranteed to land you a big international account or anything. But hopefully, maybe they will give you some ideas on how to get your foot in the door and maybe hold on to some of those clients. So I boiled this down to 5 lessons that I'm going to move through really quickly, and like I say, then you can ask some questions. But the first one I really feel like pretty much all companies are just looking for a vendor who will deliver. You think, Microsoft, every client, every vendor they work with is stellar and so hard to compete with, and it's just not true. They suffer with the same problems everybody else does. They can't find good vendors who will do what they say, deliver on time and in budget and all those things. So the first thing I would tell people is don't short sell yourself, because you can compete with the folks that are working for people like Microsoft and Transamerica. Lesson number 2, you may have to work for it a little bit. You may have to start with some of the scraps. With Microsoft, for years we worked with just a couple of small teams doing little projects that weren't very high-profile projects at Microsoft. But 7 years later, when Microsoft decided to take their list of 13,000 vendors and choose 23 preferred vendors, we made the list and blew us away. We didn't expect to make the list, but if you stick in there, I think working your way up with what you can get, you can eventually get the better deals. Number 3, I think, is just be focused and have a true differentiator. I think one of the things that we try real hard and not to do is we don't want to be everything to everyone. And I think when you're working with some of the big brands, that's really important, because they can hire anybody they want. They want to know, what are you really good at, so that they can hire you when it makes sense to hire you. And if you're in there just telling them, oh yeah, we do that, we do that, we do that, I think they'll probably discount you because they don't believe you. Another big one for us is don't overpromise. A thing we tell our clients all the time is we would rather disappoint you at the beginning of the project than at the end of the project. And I think that's big. It's so easy and so tempting to just say yes to everything that the client wants to push you to do, and that will come back to bite you in the long run. So we really only want projects where we know we can succeed. And then finally, do great work. And I think that sounds pretty obvious, but it really is key, because you really have to have that repeat business if you're going to build your business and have those referrals. So I pulled up a couple of figures for you just as an example. Last year, almost 70% of our revenue was from repeat business, and almost half of that was from clients that we had had more than 5 years. And of the new revenue that we got last year, 76% of that was from referrals from existing clients. So that's what you really need to get in there and stay in there with those kind of folks. So, had to move really fast, sorry. Questions? There goes Dustin. If you can get the microphone, that's preferred.
Dustin. So, I have 2 questions. The first one is, so you guys make custom software, right? How do you guys compete with some of the more prevalent, like do-it-yourself website services like Wix, or like the high-end ones like Squarespace? Like, why would I go to you guys instead of going to the thing like Squarespace, where I can set up a website that looks great, just like what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so the key there is functionality. We don't build inexpensive websites. Everything we build is for people who want completely custom. They need custom functionality that you're not going to get with anything out of the box. And so, like for instance, that Transamerica site, it's only like 5 pages. You could recreate the look of that site on maybe Wix or something, but you couldn't generate instant quotes, you can't take applications, you can't do all the things. So like on that site, I mean, I don't remember, I think it was like $150,000 website, because there's this much work on the back end and this much work on the front end. And so that's kind of the key for us is, you know, that's why we don't do much business in Lubbock, because there's not a lot of people in Lubbock that need what we do. We're looking for folks who, they want something completely custom, that they want to be able to design it from scratch and have it exactly the way they want it.
Awesome, thank you. And my last question is kind of a technical one. What kind of development stack? Do you guys have a unified development stack that you guys use? And
yeah, so
what is it?
Yes, we're a Microsoft shop. You know, Microsoft was our first client. We're obviously in tight with those guys. So we're a Microsoft shop. So our development is C#, Microsoft SQL, and of course on the front end, you know, we're using the standard, you know, HTML5, JavaScript kind of stuff, and some JavaScript libraries and things like that. But we're a Microsoft shop.
Have you done any work for direct sales companies? And if you have, can you elaborate on that?
For what kind of company?
Direct sales.
Oh, direct sales. Have we done any work for direct sales? Laura, you've QA'd everything we've ever built. Not in what I think of as direct sales. You know, most of our stuff it's marketing sites, for the most part. We do some, you know, enterprise software kind of stuff that is more, you know, you don't see as much, but I don't know that anything we've done would qualify as direct sales.
You were saying that you didn't do much work in Lubbock because of the price of your product, so I was wondering what other sort of challenges you had in the local market.
That's really it. I mean, like we've worked with United Supermarkets, obviously Citibank, CEV is a great client of ours. So there are some here that Christmas decor, which actually has moved out of Lubbock, but so it's really not about, it's really just about needing what we do, because, you know, for us to build a little, you know, brochure website would cost so much, it's just dumb to hire us. So we're, most of our work comes from the coasts and then spread out in between a little bit, Dallas and the Midwest a little bit, but most of it, since we worked with Microsoft so long, we've got a ton of clients in the Seattle area that we just kind of kept growing out there, but then we've got a pretty good batch of clients out in New England and that area too.
Does Smooth Fusion also have a creative services team or a marketing writing team that helps develop the content?
We do not do any of the things that like Artie Thomas would do. We don't do marketing strategy, we don't do content. We do have one full-time creative guy who actually happens to be one of my co-founders. And so we do design, but only web design. And so we often partner up with agencies. Like say we've done work with Thomas here in Lubbock, but we partner up with agencies all over the country. Either sometimes the agencies hire us because they're doing all the strategy and content and they need somebody to do the implementation. Or with some of our companies that we work with, they hire a separate creative and marketing kind of firm and then bring us in and we both work together for the same company. Like for Microsoft, for instance, we do a lot of work with Microsoft's ad agencies and then we do a lot of work directly with Microsoft. So we're actually doing both in their case. But we don't offer those services just because it's not, we want to stay very focused on being a technical team and creative design as far as web is as far as we go.
I have a quick question for you. It's really loud. From what I can remember, you are category exclusive, correct? With the clients you work with? So you work with one bank and then you work with... No,
we're not.
Well, maybe you can answer this question then. So being category exclusive, what would your recommendation or suggestion be on creating new business within that sort of model of, you know, since it is a local market, there's only so much you can work with. And obviously some companies can go national, but most like to stay regional if they can afford it. What would your recommendation be on going about bringing in that new business in a category exclusive environment?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're lucky that we do not have that issue of being category exclusive the way an agency typically does. Because since we are a implementer, you know, we're not asked to, and if they do ask, we just say no. We're not asked to be their only whatever. So like we work for a whole bunch of different insurance companies, a whole bunch of different banks, a whole bunch of different, you know, technology companies. So I don't really know how I would, I don't know that I'd be a great person to give advice there, because that hasn't been a problem we've had to face. Because like I say, yeah, I understand in the ad world, that's a problem. You have to resign one client to get another and that kind of thing. So yeah, that would make it really hard to feel sorry for you. If that helps. It does.
So who has the relationships with the customers? Like so who's the main contact with, like Microsoft?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second part is like, how do you value a business like yours?
Yeah. So to answer your first question, the way we do it is we have 4 people that their kind of whole job is project management. What we call project management, but in our model, our project managers are also the relationship managers, the account managers, everything for those clients. And so you know, they share all the different clients we have are divvied up between those folks. Now, then a big part of my job is more business development, and then I travel around and visit the clients and just kind of make sure everybody's happy and do what I can to assist from my side with that. But our what we call project managers are actually in charge of those client relationships. What was the second part? Sorry.
It's evaluation.
Value. Oh yeah. So I've actually studied that quite a bit. There's actually a report that comes out that an M&A type report that tries to value companies that are kind of in our business. And so there is a bit of a premium on companies that operate the way we do, but for the most part, you know, we have very few assets. So valuing a company like ours is going to boil down to a multiple of EBITDA, right? And so you've got however much money you can make, anywhere from in our business seems like 6 times or so EBITDA. 6 to 8 is kind of a pretty good range that transactions seem to happen in. If you get into more standard ad agencies, it's more like a 5 times EBITDA. But it's really hard to, I mean, obviously, if somebody was interested in us, it would mean a lot that we have the clients that we have, and so you could probably put some kind of premium on that. Having the vendor relationship with Microsoft, for instance, is valuable because it's really hard to even become a vendor now for Microsoft. They've kind of, you know, chopped it off. And so, yeah, that's worth something, but as far as if you went to, you know, somebody and said, hey, can you do a valuation of our company, you wouldn't get a lot for that. And like I say, the trick in our business is that there are no hard assets to speak of, just a bunch of laptops that are depreciating fast. So it's basically all on what you can earn.
Hey, what's your dev cycle look like? Like, how long is it?
Oh, well, so we're not doing a product, so it varies anywhere from, we have projects that turn around in a couple of weeks to projects that go on for years. And so we don't necessarily have a dev cycle the way you would have a dev cycle if you were building a product. We don't own anything we build. We're a work-for-hire outfit. Everything we do is custom. And so what we do is when we have a project, we lay out a schedule, And then once the thing launches, there might be sort of a dev cycle of maintenance maybe, but it's just a whole different approach than like a product-based deal, if that makes sense.
You mentioned a little bit about the significant share of your current clients are referral-based or past clients. Can you talk a little bit about your strategy for growth or how you're going after new clients?
Sure. Yeah, so we do that in a couple different ways. Here lately, the primary thing that's been a big fueler for us is one of the content management systems that we've worked with. A few years ago, we decided to kind of really standardize around this. It's called Sitefinity, and it's a content management system. And so if you don't know what that means it's a platform that you build your website on, and then it allows people who are not programmers to go in and make pages and change content and all of that. So we standardized around Sitefinity at a time when Sitefinity was kind of up and coming, and we've jumped out and worked really hard to become one of their better partners in the country. And so we've gotten a lot of new business from that. We know the people inside Sitefinity, they refer people to us personally. We also get referrals just from people who are searching for a Sitefinity partner. So that's been a big one for us, and is going to continue to be a big one for a while, because we are trying real hard to stay at the top of that heap of Sitefinity partners in America. We've never done a partner program like that before, so it's kind of a first for us, but it's working out really well. Outside of that, we just we target companies and sometimes ad agencies that we think would make us a good client, and we contact them, and it seems to work a lot of the time. So that's so specialized what we do, you can't really run an ad. So
with the industry of technology, things are changing all the time. How do you keep up? How do you decide when to use new technology like the company you just said, and when you decide to transition out or drop or go for a new strategy?
Yeah, so that's really good question, because we were thinking the other day about how Smooth Fusion was around for 7 years before the iPhone showed up, and it's hard to even remember that now. But so the technologies we're using and stuff now are completely different than when we started. So it's a combination of our interest in getting out there and maybe playing with something new. But the reality is, when you're busy and you're working for clients, you don't get to do near as much of that as you wish you could. And so a lot of times it's driven by our clients' requests. The clients are like, man, we want, or maybe we're pushing them. Like with responsive design is a good example. You go back, 10 years, and almost every website would not even hardly render on a mobile phone, right? So in that case, we started pushing our clients, because we would say, look, the people hitting your website from mobile devices is going up, and eventually is going to be the majority of the people hitting your website. So in this case, we were pushing them to get into responsive design. But then sometimes something becomes kind of faddish out there, especially among ad agencies and stuff, and then so they're asking us, hey, can we do, like people want apps when they don't need apps, or so sometimes we have to give advice and tell people, nobody's going to download an app to buy your one little product, so we have to give some advice that way sometimes. But yeah, that's always a tough balance, because we're trying to do work and make money while we're trying to learn the next thing.
Have time for one more question.
Yeah, I know you said you do website design, but do you do mobile app design as well? And what kind of process do you guys use to kind of navigate the different problems of app design and on how it works for a company? What they
So be real honest with you, we don't do much of that. We've done some. When those opportunities come along, we kind of assess whether we're a good fit for them or not. What we find is there's not nearly as many applications or that need a true native app as a lot of people think. When they first come to us, they're like, oh, we need a native app for this, and then once we explain to them what all's involved, the expense and the uptake, upkeep and all that, and generally, usually just what they're trying to do doesn't really need the native app. So we talk people out of them some, and then we've referred some of those to some folks, but we can do them. If we do them, though, we're going to use like a Xamarin or one of these tools that allows us to write the code in C# and deploy to multiple platforms. So, that may not even be the best solution in some cases. So like if there was an app that really needed an iOS developer, like, Objective-C or a true Android developer, we probably call these guys right here. But because that's just not, we've done, I think, one in Objective-C ever, so.
Todd, are you familiar with the very last question? What can we as a community do for you?
That's hard. Actually, this is probably a cheap answer, but really, just getting involved in 1 Million Cups is great. One of the things, for a company like us, we're not, we want the community here in Lubbock, whether that's for, innovation of any kind, we want that to be a strong community. We want to, have a pool of talent in this town that we can draw from and that others can draw from. And so, so since our customer base isn't primarily here, what I would really say is, please consider getting involved in 1 Million Cups. If you've got something to present, please sign up to present. We've got a lot of weeks coming up to fill up with great presenters. So just anything you can do that will continue to build the community here in Lubbock for technology and innovation and entrepreneurship would be awesome.
Thank you. He said my part, which is well. If you're new, if you have any questions, Todd, Taylor, myself, and Michelle are all here. We can answer those. Please sign up to present. There's some business cards on the back table. Take those. Sign up on that. Follow us. Come back again next week. We'll be here again. Thank you.
Goodbye.